All right, here we go. Part two of the Karmelo Anthony situation from the Law and Crime Only Case video.
The violent loss of 17-year-old Austin Metcalf.
Collin County District Attorney Greg Willis posted that video on social media announcing that a grand jury has indicted Karmelo Anthony on a charge of first-degree murder. If found guilty, Anthony, who's now 18, could face between 5 to 99 years in prison. Jeff Metcalf, Austin's dad, posted on social media, quote, indicted first-degree murder, all in caps, with hashtag justice for Austin. Karmelo Anthony's defense attorney is named Mike Howard.
Mike Howard, you're a Dallas criminal defense lawyer, here to talk to you today about what to expect when you're looking to hire a lawyer.
This is a video of Howard posted on his office's Facebook of his client. But the Anthony family also has a spokesperson in Dallas-based minister Dominique Alexander, who posted this picture with Anthony after he was released on bond. He was the person who escorted Anthony out of court when he was able to make bond. Alexander went public with him.
Yeah, Carmelo's able to make bond. By the way, Karmelo Anthony is not poor. All right, they showed his house. They showed like the school he goes to, et cetera and so forth. Karmelo Anthony's parents are doing very, very well for themselves. So when they were talking about they made bond, yeah, he was out within hours because it was like $250,000, and I think he got the bond where he had to pay that 10%. So what's that? 25,000. So yeah, Carmelo's parents are not struggling. Like this isn't some little ghetto boy who like you can see his suit right here. He didn't go buy this suit for this case. He probably already had that. Yeah, Karmelo Anthony is not some little nigga from the hood. Sorry, he just isn't.
Reaction to the indictment, calling for people to pray for the Anthony family and saying in part, quote.
And again, like I said in the first video, that's how I can tell he was around white folks. Just by the stuff that he was saying, like, oh, like he put his hands on me, he touched me first. It's like, oh, here we go. Yep.
To the racists, the bigots, and those filled with hate who've targeted Karmelo, his family, and even myself, you do not intimidate us. We are not backing down. This case is yet another example of what it means to be black in America, where even our self-defense is questioned, scrutinized, and politicized.
Yep, that is very true. I mean, again, like I said, I could tell by what Karmelo Anthony was saying and the fact that he stuck around the scene. I'm like, oh yeah, he hangs around white folks. Like, I mean, just point blank period. Because, like I guess in non-majority white environments, that's not behavior that you see, right? Even if you do think that you're self-defense, it's like, no, you'll let the police come and find you first, or like you literally don't leave at all. Right, he was getting away because, quite frankly, I think that Karmelo thought that. How do I say this? The fact that Karmelo Anthony left the area tells me, and again, I've gotten details about the size of the Metcalf twins. I think that this wasn't just 1v1, and I already know that, and I've already heard that. Austin Metcalf is significantly larger than Karmelo Anthony. Karmelo Anthony's not that big, despite they're both football players. It's like, okay, but a lineman and a safety aren't the same size. I'm sorry, like they just aren't. So just because one person, just because they both play football doesn't mean that these guys are both 6'8", 250. That doesn't mean that. But anyway, yeah, like this goes back to the F around and find out aspect of society. It's just like. Yeah, see, notice how one group is F around and find out, change the perpetrator and or victim in certain scenarios, and then it's first degree murder, hang them high, blood needs to run through the streets until this group of people knows what's good for them. Like it's same. It's America. Like this is how it is in America. Despite all of the Martin Luther King quotes and the let's all hold hands and rainbow flag, rainbow coalition, talk. No. The dominant society wants segregation, and by segregation, it's them on top and everybody else. You figure it out after they get what it is that they want. So that's what it is.
Involvement, like many others, came as a direct response to the overwhelming hate, threats, and outside influence that have surrounded this case since day one. He also said, quote, there will be a trial.
Good. I'm glad there'll be a trial. There needs to be one. Right, and there needs to be, and I'm going to follow just like I did the, actually I just got done watching the Karen Reed trial. I actually watched most of that kind of in lifetime, And it was clear that Karen was innocent. But anyway, what was the trial I really followed before that? I mean, Johnny Depp, Amber Heard, but no. What's his name? I followed Ahmaud Arbery. There it is. Yeah, Ahmaud Arbery's trial. I'm gonna follow like I followed that, right? Because Ahmaud Arbery, same thing. It was like, yo, what was he doing in the construction site? He was probably stealing. Yo, here we are. The police say something was stolen. There we go. Black at it again. And they find out no, it was actually a bunch of little kids who stole stuff, and that was, a prior incident, and the construction site / homeowner addressed it with the kid's parents who stole something, right? The McMichaels. There was stuff stolen in the neighborhood. It's like, yeah, that was down the street from the construction site, and it was unrelated incidents amongst unrelated people. Like nobody in the stuff was being stolen. It was one house that had a couple of things stolen. It was later found out to be their friends. A police report was filed, and the police had already followed up with it. Try again, right? So, and I have a feeling this Karmelo Anthony situation can be the same thing, right? So he was standing under their tent because he was trying to steal Jordans, right? And they come to find out, no, he wasn't trying to steal anything, and there was probably back 15 witnesses that can attest to that. But anyway, I can't wait for the trial. Let's get it.
Another critical piece of evidence, if this goes to trial, will be this surveillance video that came from the Frisco Independent School District.
Yeah, there we go. What does the surveillance video show? That's what we need. Release the video footage. And I think that they're not releasing it either because it's not really that damning, or a lot of narratives that they want out there are going to be debunked immediately, and it's not going to be a news story.
ISD has video.
Because make no mistake about it, I do believe the powers that be are behind this case for a reason. Now, I don't know whether it's to be pro-black or pro-white. And by pro-black, I just mean to get black people all fired up, like, oh, see the racism, right? Because then if that's the case, it's just meant to get people riled up, and then they squash it, and then that energy is still stored up, but it just comes out in something later, right? Like George Floyd or some of that nature, where it's like, racial tensions are already building up, and then there's like this event that happens that just lets, the pot boils over.
From a camera that's mounted on the stadium of the alleged murder of Austin Metcalf. Now, the district is not releasing a copy of the video. They're not letting reporters take pictures of the video, but they did allow reporters to see it. WFAA in Dallas wrote that the video, it's wide angle of the stadium, and the incident happens in the small left corner of the screen. Quote, it's difficult to determine how many people...
I mean, that's probably means it was a football camera. All right, that means that the video footage isn't that great. I think I know exactly what camera that they use, or that they're using for that, and it probably doesn't show that much. That's why they let reporters view it, but they're not making copies of it because all sorts of nonsense can happen from that. But all right, that makes sense.
Present, or what exactly is happening at the tent. Around 9:55 a.m., a sudden movement is observed at the tent, but the alleged act itself is not visible.
A sudden movement. Okay, so that means that Karmelo moved quickly, and then you can't see the incident. No, but you do see the incident. It's just not blatantly clear what's going on. Yeah, see, there's a lot of moving, but heavily pixelated. Fixer at the top of the bleachers, just above the tent at the bottom. Yeah, so see, again, there was a lot of people around. So, and it appears to be sprinkling at the time. So, which they said it was heavy rain, because again, if the video is blurry, but looks like it's sprinkling, that means it's heavier rain than what you think. Because you can't tell sprinkling too much on cameras that are of that type if it's the camera that I think that it is.
A lot of moving but heavily pixelated figures at the top of the bleachers, just above a first-degree murder. Jury station that the tent, it appears to be sprinkling at the time. End quote. According to the TV station, that video is believed to be one of the pieces of evidence that was presented to the grand jury ahead of their indictment of Karmelo Anthony this week on a charge of first-degree murder. Joining us now.
I want to see the cell phone footage.
Now is Bridget Williams, criminal defense attorney. Great to see you again. Thanks for talking about this story with us. What does this grand jury indictment?
Okay, I'm going to say right now, I'm skipping over this part unless she's somehow related to the trial. If they're just getting some criminal defense attorney to speak on what could happen, I'm not really interested. I'll give it a few minutes though. We're past where I got in the previous video. I think I got like 8 minutes, and we're at 10:30 right now.
Mean for the case against Karmelo Anthony?
So this is just a regular routine process that has to happen for any felony case in the state of Texas. So any case that moves forward to an actual trial setting has to first go through a grand jury. So the thing is that a grand jury they decided there was enough probable cause for an officer to make an arrest. So it's a very stark difference from what the grand jury decides and what actually goes on in a trial. So the first step is the arrest that was made by the police officers, did it rise to the level of probable cause? So was there enough evidence? And then if it moves forward to that, past that point, goes to a trial, the burden is raised to beyond a reasonable doubt, which is much, much higher.
And
all right, that was a good explanation. Yeah, somebody was stabbed and he said he did it and somebody's bleeding out. I mean, that's the reason for an arrest right there. Like, you don't, I mean, no pushback for me on that. And I wouldn't see why anybody would say that there should be pushback on that.
Anthony's now been indicted with first-degree murder. For it to be first degree compared to second degree, what will the district attorney in Collin County, Texas have to prove?
So first degree murder is pretty much meditated, intentional murder, right? I intended to do this.
Told you. And I learned this from not just the Carradine trial, but the Ahmaud Arbery trial too, because they got felony first degree murder. The McMichaels, at least Travis got felony murder, and his dad didn't get felony murder, but still got murder. And they went through the definition of first degree. First and second degree murder definitions are nationwide. It's not just like certain statutes of certain areas. Like that's the accepted way of first and second degree murder differentiation. And then it can get broken down from there.
Texas second degree would be reduced down to a manslaughter charge, which gives not necessarily intent and doesn't also require premeditation or just I intended for this to happen, the intentional killing of another. So that's the difference there. So it's a pretty straightforward thing there. Was there an intentional killing of another? And those are set elements that are set out in the Texas Penal Code.
And with that, because you look at what we understand police say happened at this track meet, and there was this altercation between Austin Metcalf and Karmelo Anthony, and Karmelo Anthony reaches in allegedly into his bag, and then Metcalf comes up to him, and then it feels very...
Nope, that's not what happened. Karmelo Anthony reached into his bag after Austin threatened to do something. Because remember, he's like, make me move. And then Austin walks over, and then that's when Karmelo goes into his bag. After the, Karmelo reached into his bag after Austin already walked up to him and put his hands on him. Because remember, he's like, make me move. Then he goes over there, touches his bag, touches him, pushes him. Then Karmelo goes into his bag and says, I bet you're not going to hit me or you're not going to put hands on me or whatever. Then Austin basically goes over there again, and then that's when he gets stabbed. So just to clear up this timeline of events, because this is how stuff gets twisted. It's like, well, I heard that, Karmelo Anthony watched so many episodes of the Power Rangers that he did this ninja kick where he kicked the knife in the midair, and Austin Metcalf has zero training on self-defense, so there was no way he could defend against the ancient flying knife attack. It's like, what? Like people just make up scenarios, and this is how this happens. So that's the order of events. So Austin goes up to Karmelo. Karmelo says, make me. Austin basically kind of makes him, I ain't gonna lie, which also says that, Austin's probably bigger than Karmelo. Then Karmelo goes into his bag, says, touch me again. Austin goes over to touch him again, and that's when that's when Karmelo stabs Austin. That's what happened. That's the order of events, basically, as it's understood by police affidavit and eyewitness testimony. FYI, do your own research.
Spur of the moment in some ways with the narrative that's been laid out. When you talk premeditated, this isn't a case where he woke up this morning probably and felt like he was going to go stab somebody allegedly at a track meet. What's the time?
What's that right there? Not first degree murder. That detail matters. That's not first degree. Like, he didn't wake up today and said, I'm going to go stab someone. There you go. That's not first degree murder. So it's automatically down to second degree murder or manslaughter.
That fits in for it to be considered premeditated as opposed to being in the heat of the moment and something happens where I would assume it would be second degree murder.
Yeah, that's a good point. I think that's something that would come out in the trial setting. However,
yep, it would.
In this situation, Karmelo Anthony, he admits to the killing of this other young man, right?
Just because you admit it does not mean that it is or isn't second or first degree murder. Like you can sit here and say, I did said action that led to the death of somebody, and it still be second degree murder and or manslaughter. It's not like, oh, it's second degree manslaughter, but I admit that my actions caused the death of someone, even though that wasn't my intent. Oh, well, because you now admitted it's first degree. Like, no, it's the scenario. It's not whether you admit you did it or not. Because even second degree murder, you can admit that you did it or you cannot admit that you did it. If your actions led to the death of somebody, that's still second degree murder. Right? Or it could be, again, if they just decide not to lower it to manslaughter, right? Again, the details matter. And then that's when it goes into, state statutes and what their threshold for meeting the requirement of second degree murder or manslaughter comes into play. That is state dependent. But anyway.
He admits to it, and he states that he was defending himself. So he's saying, okay, I did intentionally kill him. I admit to do that, but it was because I was defending myself.
Wrong. He did not say that he meant to kill him. He meant to defend himself. Again, Karmelo Anthony does not have, I've done research on this too, Karmelo Anthony does not have the training to know that he can put a knife in someone's chest right at the heart in the point where they would stab and bleed out immediately like that. No, Karmelo Anthony did not have that information as it pertains to what I know now. If it comes out in the trial that he is some, ancient studier of martial arts or studier of the ancient martial arts and he knows how to do that, then okay, then we can possibly say that I would still say that's still second degree murder because he didn't intentionally mean to kill Austin unless there is other evidence that says that he meant to kill Austin. But other than that, no. Touch me and see what happens that is a self-defense threat, right? Some people are over there like, oh, he escalated it to the next level. No, he didn't. That's not escalating to the next level. Escalating to the next level is you go over and get in someone's face, they challenge you, and then you respond with further action. I.e., get out of our tent, make me, and then you go over there and you put your hands on someone. No, you escalated, not them, right? But again, the black person did it, so that was the escalation point. Now, if it was two white guys, then the guy saying, come over here and see what happens. No, that wasn't escalating. That was just trash talk. That was just jousting. But because the black guy said, oh, well, he escalated. Clearly, he's the perpetrator of the crime. It's like, oh, here we go. Again, more 1920s talk.
And I felt threatened. I thought that he was going to harm me in some way. I thought that he was coming for me to assault me, to harm me. So I was defending myself. So that's really the difference here. I think that it's more that difference of his desire to say, well, I was defending myself, opposed to necessarily the timing.
The district attorney who released the video last night saying that the death of Austin Metcalf, it was a violent death, and Karmelo Anthony has been indicted after the evidence was presented to a grand jury on first-degree murder charges. You're in the Dallas area. What do you know about the district attorney in that county, Greg Willis?
Well, Greg Willis is...
Yeah, they're getting off topic now. I like the way he said, like, oh, that was a violent death. It's like he got stabbed once, guys. Like, people act like this is some... Friday the 13th, Halloween, where someone gets stabbed 15 times. Like, no, it was literally one time, which is why I'm like, the portrayal of this attack and the framing of it is very indicative as to, again, what people are trying to make out of nothing, or they're trying to escalate this further than what it is. But anyway, we'll say, yeah, we're 14 minutes into the video. The video's 25 minutes long. We're already off track. Again, they don't have the video footage. They're just talking about the details that someone else wrote about the video footage. So I've got no interest. But anyway, I think that if all things were considered and all things were fair, yeah, this is manslaughter. But it was self-defense. But I don't know. I can see it going either way. But this should be manslaughter at worst. At absolute worst, it should be manslaughter. Like, his actions led to the death of somebody, just even though that wasn't the intent. I know if it's ruled self-defense, then it would basically be cleared. But yeah, like I've seen this scenario play out in other situations, and the energy is so much more. It's so different. It is so different. It is pathetic. But anyway, yeah, that's my take. This is John from XY Rising. I'll be following the trial. I may post about it during the trial. I know I didn't during Ahmaud Arbery, but these trials they take so much time. But anyway, that's all I got. I really thought that maybe we could finally get the surveillance footage, but I guess not. But anyway, that's my video. John from XY Rising.